parties have dictated how Kenya moves on in all areas: politics, economics, education, social services, etc. The neo-colonialism is real. Cyprian used a term, said coloni leo, if I'm not wrong. And that is still ongoing. It's very legit. And it's something that also dictates, our politics as a country. And we really need a stand-up leader that is able to put the interests of Kenyans first, even as we think about global politics. Also said, all these rights are only on paper. Crimes and violations against them are not enforced. They are therefore currently useless. Yeah. So this speaks to implementation of policies. Bukeni had a lot to say. They will all continue to be short-lived as long as we do not address the root causes of the problems and realize the action needed is much greater than protest. Yeah, speaks back to organizing and movement building beyond the mass action, beyond the civil action. How do we address the issues? What's the bigger agenda, the biggest plan? And it says policies, that's the IMF and World Bank. There should be a big policy or economic stance that we take. We no longer recognize these multinationals in Kenya, do not recognize anything they stand for. So this really speaks to the larger, again, neo-colonial agenda that we have in the country. Someone say no to oppression requested the mic. So can you see that?
Yes.
Say no to oppression. Okay.
Is bad. Let me add him as a speaker. You have the mic. And has dropped. So we have also Deborah. Let me add her as a speaker. Deborah, you have the mic. Well, Nafula, I think whenever we're giving them the mic, they're dropping off. So we can continue.
Okay, yeah. There seems to be a problem. Oh, awesome. I can hear you.
We can hear you.
Yeah, this is no to government oppression. I just want to thank you guys for putting up this space. I'm actually quite impressed to listen to some of the submissions that have been made today by Cyprian. But I actually put out a tweet today, and I said that, on that tweet, that I think what, from my observation, being on that on those protests from last year's to this year's, one of the things that I've noticed that is that we lack temerity, we lack focus, and we lack something called discipline. Now, if we don't have those three things, then basically our ability to basically take over, or put up a formidable force would actually be very, very limited. Okay, and what informs that is for example, let's look at a revolution that just happened very close to us, and that's the Egyptian revolution. I like what Cyprian said, that you have to bring in people from you have to bring in people from all walks of life, basically, and that was for you that's exactly what made the Egyptian revolution such a formidable revolution. You had a Muslim, you had a Christian, you had people basically from all socio-economic walks of life who decided, hey, you know what, Hosni Mubarak, this is enough. Okay, we've had enough of you. We are saying no. And guess the most important thing from that movement was this, is that Egyptians hit the streets in their millions, not million, in their millions. And they stayed on those streets for as long as until Hosni Mubarak had to leave. They decided, guess what? We're going to stay on those streets until this guy leaves power. And that is exactly what happened. Now that's where discipline and focus actually comes in. you know. So here I don't think, I've heard what you guys have been saying, and let me tell you something. I always say that you don't go poking the devil's ass, sorry to use that language, and then expect him to serve you pancakes. Okay, it doesn't happen. Okay, it absolutely doesn't happen. You don't go poking the devil's ass and then expect him to serve you pancakes. The whole thing about revolutions, this is a nasty affair. Okay, it's a very nasty and bloody affair. I mean, if you check out the numbers in the Egyptian revolution, for example, over 800 people died. 800 people died. Over 6,000 people were wounded for them to get their freedom. Okay, I'm sorry to tell you guys this. Okay, we are trying to perfect an imperfect movement. The truth is, if you guys are looking at a revolution, okay, a revolution is nasty. It's a nasty business. It's a nasty affair. I'm saying there's nothing good about it, It's basically you're going against the forces of evil, and they don't let go easy. They just say, oh no, you guys, oh yeah, you know what? Yeah, this is good enough. No. They only would respond back to you guys with the same force or even a greater force than you probably imagined. So you expect that in a revolution there would be casualties. This is serious business, man. I don't think most of us guys really grasp this concept that, hey, this is actually a very, very serious thing. Okay, I like what Cyprian said. He was trying to say that, and he actually not trying to say it, he actually said it, that if you guys think that you're going to take on William Ruto in 2027 and defeat him by the ballot, and you would actually win, it's not going to happen. I can guarantee you that Ruto will be, he would not leave that seat. He will do anything possible to retain that seat. Anything, okay? It doesn't matter what violation of law, he will break any law to keep that seat, okay? So that's why I'm telling you guys, I think before you think about the June 25th, you basically have to start figuring out, man, are you guys ready for this? Because this is serious business, man. It's serious. It's a very, very serious business, okay? You have to know that there will be casualties, okay? And there will be people wounded. So if you're not ready for blood and if you're not ready for wounds, you might as well say, you know what, we give up. Because it just doesn't happen. I'm sorry that I don't want to sound so good, to tell you the stuff. Oh yeah, guess what? Yeah, this stuff is good. This is not a time for selfies. This is serious business. Okay, the revolutions, as I said, are nasty business. It just doesn't happen. Okay, so I mean I also like what Cyprian said. He's trying to direct you guys. He's trying to say, hey, guess what? Listen, we need a message. Right now, I'm seeing other people are talking about lighting candles. Other people are saying, oh, I don't know. So we don't even know why we're going to the streets, basically. Okay? There is a lot of double speak in this thing. And so, that's why I was like, you know what, maybe this thing is all pointless because we don't even know what we are going to. I mean, so how does lighting count? Yes, we want to honor the people that were killed. Okay? But, the truth is, how does that advance our cause? Nothing. Okay? You might as well as light your candle at home and, in the memory of Rex and everyone else that died and hold them to your heart and say that was it. No need to go to those streets. But if you guys are talking about a revolution, I'm sorry to tell you guys that this is actually serious business. And guess what? Hey, this is going to be, it's going to get messy. So you have to decide, if that is a route that you want to go, then be prepared for whatever comes. And don't complain, because pain will be your reward. Unfortunately, okay? Nothing good actually comes easy. And I just want to finish, I'm a Christian, and there's a very interesting verse in the Bible. It's in Revelations 12, I think 11, and it says about, it talks about the martyrs, you know, and it's like it goes and says something like, you know, that these guys did not like their lives unto death. I mean, these guys were willing to pay the price for whatever they believed in, even if death was the final consequence. All right. So these are very, very difficult, and this is a very difficult conversations that everybody here needs to have with themselves. Okay, so if you're, it's in fact, yesterday I was actually reading something else quite interesting in Deuteronomy, I think 10, 11, something like that, and how the Israelites were supposed to go when they were going to battle. You know, they used to be told, okay, listen, if you grew a vineyard, okay, and you've not eaten the first fruits of those vineyards, okay, you know what? Don't go for battle. You know, you can say, hey, you know what? I planted my vineyard. Sorry guys, I've not even tasted the first fruits of it. Yeah, you know. So what I'm trying to say is,
Nafula, sorry, you'll continue, Nafula. What I wanted to just say as an elder is that we should also take care that we do not discourage,
yes,
but actually build ourselves. Because
yes,
if we get the tone of let us lose hope, throw our hands in the air, give up, and go home and rest, that is not. I don't think that is what they call the conversation.
No. It's not the core conversation. I totally get you. But what I'm trying to tell you is this is a very, very serious conversation that we need to have with ourselves. You know, so we have to ask ourselves: are we willing to pay the price? Okay, are we willing to pay the price? To live in a country where there's a rule of law, it's a choice. It's a choice, and it's a very difficult conversation that we have to have with ourselves. Thank you very much.
Thank you for sharing.
If I can.
Sorry? Who's speaking?
Sorry. Me.
Oh, okay.
Can I come in?
Yes, please.
Oh, I'm sorry. Somebody else wants to come in.
It's okay. Yes.
But I just wanted to say to the gentleman that just spoke and tell him that these are conversations people have had with themselves already. We've been fighting to live in a better country peacefully. We've been coming with our flags, our mask, our bottle of water, singing patriotic songs, chanting. We've gone there. We've been there, and it is not our will to go the revolution way. It is the reality of what our country has turned into that has made us decide, say, utuwe sisi wote ama uende. You're not going to mess up this country for us. We cannot afford to have a government that not only steals from us, but actually kills us in our own country. These killings have been happening for the longest time. Only now they're a national discussion. If you go to Mathare, Dandora, anywhere, vile Boniface aliuliwa jana kwa maandamano ya Albert Ojwang is the same way police have been killing people in the grassroots. And we are tired of that kind of reality in our country. We are fed up, we are done with it, and we know that this is not a joke. We know that we are not joking about this, and we are actually prepared for whatever the consequences. The young people that died last year were prepared for whatever the consequences. We know that we're playing with fire, and we're willing to go to the very end of this. We just don't have time. We don't have time to give Ruto to keep stealing and killing us and treating us like shit in our own country. So tunajua kwamba ni risky affair na tuko willing kwenda all the way. This is why we are asking as many Kenyans as can come out, please come. Please come. So that it's all our collective endeavor, but do not sell fear to people. You're being killed hata ukiwa home kama unakula. You're being killed kama unauza mask. You're being killed anyways. So why don't you do it the right way once and for all? That's our call. And the call stands. Ruto must go on June 25th.
Okay. Thank you, Wanjira.
Nafula, if I might come in.
Yes, please.
I also want to acknowledge the passion in the gentleman that spoke, because that is a voice that I have had from different people, going like, "Oh, what are we doing? You know, is this successful?" But one thing I do want to uplift is that in organizing, we always have to give hope, because the minute we break down and go like, "Oh, this is never gonna work," that's when people have apathy. That's when people leave the revolution. I love that the gentleman pointed out he is a church person, and I think that is one space we should learn from. One of the most organized groups are churches, and we need to find out why are people so committed, so driven in churches. One of the things is because there's hope, and revolution comes with giving hope, knowing that we're gonna win, knowing that our ancestors, people before us, have done this, have won. So there is hope that we're gonna win, and that's one of the things that we can explore as we learn. The other thing I wanted to point out was he did bring out a good example of the Egyptian revolution in 2021. And I also wanted
2011.
to explore 2011, thank you, to bring that conversation back, because this was a powerful uprising. And the questions we should be asking ourselves was, what did we learn from them? Uh, what is happening in Egypt now, a few like years after the revolution? Because from there we can learn what we need to do, and that's why I was bringing out the point of we always have to have an alternative. We can say Mubarak has to go out, but we do not have an alternative. Organizing is about we want this out, but we do know what we want in. So that can support us define, once we remove Ruto, what is our transition government that Cyprian mentioned about. So we need to be very clear on that. And yeah,
Can I just, for me,
all I wanted to uplift as you come in is that hope is a big thing in organizing, and joy that Kenyans we have is also a revolutionary force.
yeah,
Okay.
just 1 minute. I'll be 1 minute of your time, and then I'm done. You know, so just
Yeah,
in
sure.
in line with what you've just said, Nafula. And I think that was very succinct. And please don't get it like I'm trying to like discourage us guys. Is I have been in those streets, and guess what? I was actually even there today. No one showed up, but I was there. Okay, so I'm actually talking from a point of conviction. Okay, and not just talking from the sense of talking, but being there myself. Okay, I went for those mandamanos. I think from the first one. It's just that for me, I'm not a big guy on selfies and pictures. I go there to stand on business, basically on business. But if anyone ever asks me to produce receipts, I have enough of them. So anyway, so back to the Egyptian revolution. So one of the things that was very critical for the success of the Egyptian revolution was this. Egyptians had enough of Hosni Mubarak. Okay, they had enough of his oppression. The guy was almost the wealthiest guy in Africa at some point. Okay, he had looted his country dry. Okay, and guys were like, hey, guess what? Enough of this stuff. Okay, and that's why I think Cyprian's point was very important when he said that you have to bring everyone on board. But then you see, how do you bring everyone on board? Okay, it takes conviction. People have to come and say, hey, you know what? We've had enough of this, okay? We've had enough of our young people being shot like pigs on the street. We've had enough of our young people being picked up from our homes and being drugged in police stations and whatever else they're being taken to and being butchered. You have to say, it has to be like our parents have to say enough. The children have to say enough. The churches have to say enough. Okay, I'm glad, I'm starting to see churches are coming out and saying enough of this nonsense. Okay, the business community has to come and say enough of this. Okay, so you have to speak as one voice. And how do you know that you're speaking as one voice? Okay, I can tell you for the example of the Egyptian revolution, how can we tell that the Egyptian guys actually spoke with one voice? And that's why I underlined for you, and I'm going to rephrase that again. Those guys showed up in their streets by the millions, not 1 million. It was not a 1 million march campaign. They were there by the millions. Okay, as in it was it was almost so crazy. Okay, in the capital city, nothing could move. Okay, and something else that was also very important about the Egyptian revolution is they didn't take breaks. Okay, in the military they usually, I mean, I'm not a military guy myself, but they have this thing called sustained campaign. Okay, so you don't quit until you win. Okay, so that was very important. Yes, they had the numbers, they pulled the numbers. Of course, the police responded, like I told you. Almost 800 people, over 800 people were killed, and over 6,000 people were actually brutalized by the police. Okay, so but you know what? They had the numbers. They had the numbers. So the police responded. The army, I think, also responded. But you know what? Because it was such a concerted effort, it was such a sustained campaign. Okay, the guy had to, like, guess what? Enough. And that sustained campaign did something magical for them. Okay. It helped build the momentum. Okay, so no one was like, hey, you know what? I need to go home, cook for my children. Guy, listen, this is not a neat thing. If we're going to stay hungry, we're going to stay hungry on these streets until victory is won. So that's why I was trying to say, guess what? This is very serious business. We need to, like, decide, you know what? If you're going to be on those streets, we're going to be on those streets, and we're not going to leave those streets. Whether we're not going to leave those streets until victory is won. Okay, nothing like I need to go eat, even if you have to stay there hungry. That's exactly what's going to happen. You'd rather have a week of hunger than live in a country, or in the next 20, 30 years of a country where you don't even know what is next for you tomorrow. Okay, so basically that's just my take on this thing. And thank you for this stuff. And I think I'm done. But those are very important lessons from the Egyptian revolution. Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing the reality of what when we speak about revolutions, the reality of what that actually might mean. Tevin, I don't know if there's anyone else. I'd like to bring this to a close due to time.
Yeah. There's we have 3 guys. Please, even as we're sharing our,
okay, I'll ask
our reflections, we have 2
Yeah,
minutes.
I'll ask that we put our points to 2 minutes max each person. I'd promise to close this up as 20:30. So I'd really love to close soon. So the
right.
two more people, the 3 people, 2 minutes each.
Yeah, so we have the first one. We have Betty Kwamboka. I'm giving you the mic. The floor is yours. I think Betty has dropped. Then we have also Moods Melo. Moods, you have the mic. Moods has dropped also. And then we have Deborah. Deborah, Moods, you have the mic. Yes.
I just wanted to give my thoughts on what's happening, and I want to appreciate the speakers and the organizers of this space. It's been very informative. I think there's a context we need to address and discuss more. Maybe not today, but for future thought. The intergenerational distrust that exists. There was a time where, and why Gen Z are very insistent on leaderless, tribeless, formless. It's because there was a time when you would be called by the opposition leader, and then all of a sudden you've been co-opted because umeona wakando, umeona uko nyuma ya tent. And that then generated, and at that time when this was happening in the early 2000s, these people were children and they were watching all these things happening. So when they grew up with a distrust of authority. So when we do need to form those alliances, as Cyprian has raised, but how do we do that when we've already taught these people that we can't be trusted? And there's also the cultural clashes. There are certain people who grew up at a time when there was stronger community, there were stronger community ties. And now with the advent of the new constitution, there's more focus on individual rights and freedoms. So when you're looking at a group of people, when these two conversations are being had, we are not on the same wavelength. We are not hearing each other. There's a level of communication that's not being met. So I think when it comes to addressing what our way forward is and trying to understand what our strategy will be, first of all, it's not a one-day affair. And secondly, we also need to be aware of these different generations and the impact of past political moves on the current Gen Z and how that is impacting our ability to talk to each other and ability to organize effectively. And just to let you know that there are different, I hear you when you say that we don't know what's happening with the finance bill, but I was listening to the radio before this, joining this space, and heard that there are professionals who've actually gone and made submissions to Parliament, and as a result, certain controversial clauses in the finance bill have been withdrawn. For instance, KRA will not have access to your private or sensitive data and stuff like that. So there have been positive moves. It's only that, as you rightly brought it out, we don't know how to come into the same space and have that conversation. And I think it's a class issue that needs to be addressed, because these professionals are likely not coming from Dandora or Korogosho or Kamkunji. They're probably coming from, Kilimani and the upper areas, even Buruburu, but we don't talk to each other, and that's a problem because the struggle is the same. We're all feeling the same pinch of all these things, and so we need to figure out how we are going to break those class barriers for a better Kenya. And my final request is to Cyprian to have a masterclass or another course on what he's talked about, the 4 points of organizing and his journey. I think we have a lot to learn from that, and we can see how to adapt it for our current situation. Thank you so much.
Thank you for that. I see Moods is on. Moods might be our final speaker. No, Tevin? Is it Moods?
Yes, it's Moods.
Okay. Yes, Moods. 2 minutes, please. Thank you so much for that, Deborah. That was very insightful.
Hello, can I be heard?
Yes, we can hear you.
Clear.
Yeah, okay, so mi nilikuwa nasema tu hiyo story ya wasee kutokea street. So like unapata places zingine ni like ni ngumu like kumobilize wasee because let's say like Mombasa. Unapata place kama Mombasa like wase wakitokea kama 60%, seme 60% ya wase wakitokea 40 ni wase wametokea na like wametokea street na naitwaje na mindset ingine ama niseme na something different kutoka na wale wase wengine. So unapata like it's hard ku go forward na protest ama ku protest the right thing because like tayari kwa hapo kwa street tayari kuna like you are divided. So unapata the 40% out of the 60 ni wezi, wahuni, wase wametumwa na like kuna wahuni wenye wamejileta, kuna wase wenye wametumwa na politicians kati yao bado. So inakuwa ngumu sana. So unapata wase hapo like the 20% yenye inabaki, some wanaamua kurudi home, some wanaamua kujitenga. So unapata wale wase wenye huwa wamejifix pali kama kwa mabuilding nini, yani wase walikuwa wametokea maandamano like for real. So wanajisunda place maybe for their safety and stuff. So unapata at the end of the day ni wasi kidogo sana wanaweza kumanage, nao ni wenye maybe hata wenye wako karibu na, because again sasa sai cops are not on our side. So like politicians na wanaongea like wakilipwa like the way we saw the other day in Nairobi. So inakuwa ngumu sana, and I think suggestion yangu kubiti kitu kama hiyo ni tunezaje promote like tunezaje ongea sauti moja design hata tukitokea street like hiyo like 60% tunapata like sasa inakuwa the other way around, 40 ndo wanakuwa like wase wanatokea street for the right purpose, and then 20 inakuwa the other, inakuwa wase sema wauni, which inakuwa rahisi kwa conquer because sasa like we are many, like tuko wengi kuwaliko. Hiyo ni I think kitu ya kwanza venye tunaweza like kuadvise yana venye tunaweza mobilize because again it's not a big place yenye kuna like places nyingi za kumeet. So unapata kama ni street ya CBD maybe pembe za Ndovu hiyo side, na tau kusaidia wapi kama unaenda Old Town, so maybe that place, but kumobilize like wase kutokea street ndio inakuanga ngumu sana. Unapata mnaweza tokea watu kama 5, ukitoka unachukua wase, mnatoka mnafika tao kama in the next 1 hour 2 hours unajipata uko solo ama mko hivi. So unashangaa utarudi home, utajiseti pia wewe upige mavideo ukituma kwa mtandao ama like what will you do? Ukibaki tena street peke yako unaweza shika off guard. So that's the place where inakuwa ngumu. Personally I come from Mombasa, but sana nakuanga Nairobi, so like home ni huku, so sana kwanga Nairobi. Like ile last time I was in Nairobi, ili nipata nikiwa Nairobi, so like inakuwa ngumu ukiwa huku home. So you'd rather travel to Nairobi uende participate ya Nairobi because it's way like as in sema ni worth it, if that's a word I could use, ni worth it kuliko huku something also. That's my take.
Thank you so much for sharing. Na nikenye umesema ni mobilization, ni numbers, ni wasi na ni realization ya kutokelezea, yani inakunga tu na there's always a mix. Unajua kuna mix ya wasi.
There's always a challenge. Mbaya sana.
Yeah. So I'd like to close in this way, and I'd like you to allow me to close because of time. I think what was important about this conversation is about like how do we create sustained change? How do we go from rage to hope? So there's a guy I know anaitwa Marshall Gans. He has 5 key steps to organizing. Number 1 is storytelling, identifying your story and being able to connect it to the story of others. So story of one, and then the story of us. How do we combine our narratives, our stories, our shared struggles, so that we are able to sustain this? No, where hata kama unatoka wapi, wewe ni professional, sijui anatoka kile, bado ana understand that the same issues in our affects zina affect wasi wako Mathare, wako kwa mtaa, only they manifest in different ways. Mse mwenye hizi afford kwenda Hosi na mse ako na insurance cover, hata kama uko na hiyo do, inasemekanga ati we are only one hospital bill away from poverty in this country. So our issues manifest in different ways. So how do we create a collective narrative? How do we build relationships that are sustainable, like the way the social justice centers have been able to do? So people have each other's backs in our neighborhoods, in our families, etc. Number 3, how do we create structure? And structure can be horizontal. Structure manifests in different ways. And I think Cyprian spoke to this a lot in terms of what happened in the 90s. Then kuna strategizing, which is very important. What is the strategy? And then now is the action. And I'd like to go back to what Monica said in terms of movement building, and all the work that we do is about creating hope. So yes, there has been a lot of blood, but the truth is, if you look at, for example, Lema Bowe in Sierra Leone and what they were able to do by using all the different strategies that they were able to employ around nonviolent action, working with women, thousands of women, they had little to no casualties. They were able to bring a ceasefire and an end to the war. Yes, kumekuwa na issues Sierra Leone, things are not perfect, but my point is, by utilizing different tactics, they were able to do it with minimal, near zero casualties. So my point is, how can we think about different tactics as well? How can we work with religious leaders? How can we work with women? How do we bring in different people, and how do we get them to buy into the narrative? So once again, thank you to all our speakers who are able to join. I often say it's important to read power. If you read power, you write power. I hope that today, even as we go, tutaweza kusoma, let's read the power, so that we know how to respond effectively, so that we can write power. Thanks to Badili for hosting this space. It was such a powerful space. All the speakers, man, it was so incredibly, building this entire conversations, and everyone who contributed as well. So from me, I just want to say asante, and let's keep on doing what we can in the spaces that we are in, and let's keep on transforming communities and making a difference. Thanks. Over to you, Tevin, as you close.
Thank you very much, Nafula. Powerful moderation, powerful speakers. Thank you, Wanjira. Thank you, Monica. Thank you, Cyprian. Also, thank you, Benson in absentia. And to all our listeners who have also taken their time to just listen to this conversation, amazing conversation. Key takeaway, we need to broaden the movement to include other actors. That's how we're going to win this. And we need to organize better. We mobilize well, we need to also organize better. Because we know we have a purpose that we are also supposed to come up with a purpose, and we know what we want as a country. So let's go out there and just go for it. One thing I want to say, part of organizing better is ensuring that this conversation does not end here, because this is just a 3-hour space. We have our social media platforms. Let's continue with this conversation. Let's continue the conversation about the importance of organizing better if we want to achieve whatever it is that we want to achieve as a country. As Badili, we are dedicated to always providing this platform so that we continue having this conversation. And also next week, same time, same place, we're going to have this conversation and see also how does civic, even as we're talking about organizing, how does active civic participation look like in this country in the ever shrinking civic space? So I'm looking forward to also seeing you next week. Let's organize and let's have people come in and have this powerful conversation. Once again, thank you very much. Stay safe out there, and let's liberate our country from the bad governance. Cheers. Thank you and have a good night.